Hello, I am sure you will be happy to hear that this is the last video for this week's lessons on the introductory information we need for social stratification. So this is the second of two videos that we're going to watch about classic theories of social stratification. And this time we're going to look at the fellow who gave us the term life chances that we studied in another video this week, and look at what his take was on socioeconomic class in a capitalist system. He examined socioeconomic classes. Max Weber examined socioeconomic classes later on in the capitalist cycle, like after the Industrial Revolution and capitalism had really taken off and had become part of the government system, and there were some checks and balances on capitalism so that it would not allow the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, the two-class system that Karl Marx suggested, it wouldn't allow that to actually be reality. So Max Weber studied Karl Marx. He knew all about it, but he also looked at a more modern version of a capitalist society than Karl Marx did. And he said, you know what, there is more to it than just ownership of stuff that's going to give us wealth in life. It's more than just ownership of the means of production and the means of distribution, which gives us a profit. There are some other social factors that play into this socioeconomic categorization of people in society. And so we need to combine those three achieved statuses. In Max Weber's discussion, it's three achieved statuses, but we don't call them the same thing as the achieved statuses we've looked at in previous lectures together. We use his theoretical words, and maybe you'll be able to see some parallel to our income, occupation, and education that we use in our modern socioeconomic class distinctions to his classical words for his three achieved statuses that he put into his take on this topic. Okay, so Max Weber is our guy, and he examined capitalism in a more updated situation, and he said it's more than means of production, means of distribution, whether you're able to sell your labor and that's the only way you make money. He said that there are three achieved statuses, not ascribed, achieved, three achieved statuses, wealth, power, and prestige, that we internalize and kind of make some philosophical distinctions about somebody's income and the property that they can use to make income, the stipends that they receive, all of these different things that we went over when I was telling you about the 7 socioeconomic classes in society. Wealth is a general term that Max Weber used to describe any and all of us on every rung of the ladder. So he said that it's more than just wealth, though. So, for instance, if what you have as wealth is your Social Security income, your Medicaid, and your food stamp card, that still is your wealth. Maybe you own, a Pontiac from the 1990s, and it still gets you from point A to point B. That is part of your wealth. Now, that doesn't really compute with the way you and I maybe use the word wealth casually in conversation. However, this is a specific vocabulary word that Max Weber gave us, so sociologically, you need to learn a new meaning for this word when we are applying it to these topics of social stratification. So wealth, according to Max Weber, includes all of your sources of income, income-producing property like that diploma you're working on, or that lawnmower that you might mow people's grass and get income from, or rental houses, or any of these kinds of things. If you have a retirement account that's bringing back a return, that is income-producing property that is part of your wealth. There are lots of different degrees of wealth in a society, but if you are living off your financial aid check and there is no other income in your household, then your financial aid check is your degree of wealth according to Max Weber's definition. But he said it is way too simplistic, even though he has a really broad definition of wealth. He said it's way too simplistic to just use that to determine socioeconomic class. And he said we don't, because really in the back of our minds, there are two other theoretical or philosophical components that we combine to determine how we think and feel and what that position is in society that a person occupies or that different categories of people occupy. So power is another one of those three concepts in Max Weber's description of socioeconomics. Because, and here power, again, just like wealth, maybe has a different definition than what the Merriam-Webster dictionary would give you if you looked it up online. Here, power means the ability to achieve your goals in life. If you tend to have you and your category of people, the entire category of people who share your same social characteristics, if that entire category of people tends to have an easy time in life, you can achieve not only your work goals, but your education goals, and your social goals, etc. If it tends to be easy for you, then the structure of society is designed in a way on the macro scale so that you have the power to have a fulfilling life and be able to achieve your goals and influence social structure so that you and your progeny, your ancestors, not ancestors, your descendants, there's the word I'm looking for, you and your descendants are going to continue to be able to enjoy that kind of power and influence in life. Now, you might not necessarily feel that this is power, but there's different kinds of privilege in society. And in a society like ours, let's use patriarchy as an example. Patriarchy is a word that probably you have all heard before. Now, patriarchy is nobody's fault. Nobody's responsible for it. It's simply a social structure where males have the dominant role in public affairs. Males have the dominant role in economic affairs. Males sometimes have the role in educational affairs and this kind of thing. And females have the gender role of being caregivers or people who operate in the domestic sphere instead of the public sphere. Okay, we inherited it, that system. It's nobody's fault. But in that system, males, of course, are going to have more privilege built into the social structure than females. So, for instance, we don't talk about men fighting for the right to vote in society because they didn't have to. They were the ones that kind of designed society in this case. So power is like that. That's the kind of power we're talking about. We're not talking about arm wrestling power. We're talking about that kind of hidden power in the social structure. Some people don't have it, other people do have it, and then there's varying degrees in between of powerfulness or powerlessness. So that's another component of Max Weber's complex combination here of these three achieved statuses. Prestige is the last one, and this is, I say this for the last because, well, I mean, usually you hear them listed, wealth, power, and prestige, but prestige seems to be the one that's the most difficult for students to understand. Prestige is about social respect. And it's not about respect for you necessarily as an individual, but on the macro scale, do some jobs in society get more awe, get more appreciation, get more respect than others? For instance, being a sanitation worker and collecting garbage on the side of the road and carrying it to the landfill, that is a vital job for society. But does that sound like an attractive job that most of you are in school to try to pursue that job? Probably not. It's a vital part of society, and you can make great income with great benefits working for the city, county, or state by doing that kind of thing. So there might be a high income level that you could get relatively for the education level that's required for that occupation, but the degree of social respect across the board in society, you don't have very much as a sanitation worker. It's a vital job. Thank you for doing it. Over-the-road trucker, also, vital job. Thank you for doing it, but there's not a great deal of social respect, unfortunately. I'm going to say unfortunately for both of those. That's a shame, in my opinion. but there seems to be a great deal of social respect if I say something like astronaut or neurosurgeon or electrical engineer or something like that. These jobs require a great deal more education than the others, but in some cases, the income level, like an attorney, in some cases, if you're an attorney, there are so many attorneys these days, you might not even be making as much as the sanitation worker. You're definitely not making as much as the diesel mechanic. Those folks make a lot. But anyway, the wealth is not the only thing, in other words. There's a whole lot of other mental and philosophical kind of categorizations that we use when we're figuring out who belongs where in the social spectrum. So if you are aspiring to a certain title at work, or a certain category of job in society, it probably has to do with the income level, but also wouldn't sometimes it keep you happy if you asked for a promotion, if there wasn't money there, but they wanted to make you feel valued? They said, well, how about if we change your title to this so you will know how valued you are, but maybe there's not money to compensate you for that new title, but won't it be nice to be able to say, hey, I've got this new business card and now I'm this for the company that I started out in the mailroom and now I'm, a junior executive assistant or something. So these titles bring about a certain degree of social respect. And Max Weber said it's a combination of all of these things. So my concentric circles over here that I tried to draw, 3 concentric circles, very much overlapping, none of them standing on their own. Power, wealth, and prestige. These 3 ascribed, I keep on saying that. No, not ascribed. Achieved statuses. These 3 achieved statuses are combined in Max Weber's classical theory to create socioeconomic statuses. And you will read in your textbook, I've drawn a tiny ladder down here because really the ladder metaphor is much less valuable, much less useful in Max Weber's description. Some kind of pie chart or concentric circle model is a better picture or visual for the way he said these things are combined to create different social positions. But he did describe 6 different categories that you could roughly describe when combining all of this. They range from laborers to skilled labor, middle class, entrepreneurs, rentiers is the top one. They are basically those people who can live off their income from generations of wealth and don't have to work. Their money works for them or their property works for them, that kind of thing. So please read about those in chapter 7 and get a distinction for these 6 different rungs on the ladder that can apply to Max Weber's model. But this concentric circle thing, the overlap of these 3 achieved statuses, I got it right that time, that's a better picture to explain where he's coming from. Okay? So I'll see you again next week. Bye.